am Orlando Jones, and I just want you to know that the Moana Nui Podcast will be starting soon. Stay tuned, yo.
I'm Veronica Taylor, and from myself and Ash Ketchum, I just want to say, Moana Nui, I choose you!
Aloha mai kako, everyone. Welcome to the May 11th episode of the Moana Nui Podcast as we continue our celebration of Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Month. I hope all of you enjoyed our content last week, which was the talk about priced out of paradise, how Hawaiians are forced off of their native homeland. We had a wonderful conversation with our panelists, Kavika Hoke, Brad Starks, and Kelly Makura, and we're really excited to bring you guys another wonderful topic as we continue our celebration. Before we get started, my name is Moana McAdams, and I am the founder and host of the Moana Nui Podcast. I'm also a children's book author for the Adventures of Nakoa and Nohea children's book series. It's a bilingual story told in both English and Olelo Hawaiʻi, which focuses on our Pacific Islander cultures and bringing new stories to folks in an entirely new way. And as I mentioned, I am also an advocate and champion for our communities of color, and I'm really excited to have such a wonderful group of panelists tonight. Our topic today is Hewa, should hula and cultural practices be taught to by non-Native Hawaiians? And so we're going to approach this conversation from a lot of different angles. And my goal with this conversation is to really help others understand the importance of hula within the Native Hawaiian community. And I'm really excited to have our guests talk about their experiences from a lot of different perspectives, from multiple generations, and different experiences teaching both in and outside of Hawaii. So my first guest that I want to bring up is Kumuhula Hokulani Holt Padilla. She is an esteemed kumuhula who started her own halau in 1976. Kumuhokulani learned traditional hula from her family and has dedicated her life to teaching, promoting, and supporting traditional Hawaiian culture, as well as making it relevant to young Hawaiians. Her award-winning hula dance troupe has performed in competitions all over Hawaii, and she is often an in-demand judge. Her evening-length hula drama about Maui's Supreme Chief Kahekili, which combined hula with modern technology and a bilingual script, toured within the US and to 2 German festivals. Kumuhoku was also a founding member, a parent, and a director of Punana Leo o Maui, Hawaiian language preschool. She was the first Maui site coordinator for Napua No'eau, the Center for Gifted and Talented Native Hawaiian Children. She was the Culture and Education Manager for the Kaho'olawe Island Reserve Commission and has worked at the Maui Arts and Cultural Center as their Cultural Programs Director. Kumuhokulani has also participated in numerous boards and public service organizations such as Kawahea Incorporated, Lala Kea Foundation, Ilio Ula Okalani Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana, Maui County Street Naming Commission, and the County Commission on Culture and Arts. Kumuhoku continues to tirelessly give to her community and is tremendously proud to be from Maui and to be Hawaiian. Welcome, Auntie Hoku. Mahalo for joining us.
Mahalo to you as well. Oh, that makes me sound so important.
But you are. That's why I wanted to get...
That's a long and healthy life.
Yes, a long, healthy, wonderful, just very full life. And the other ladies who are joining you today are well on their way as well. So welcome again.
Mahalo.
My next guest is Kumuhula Lealoha Kaula. She is an inspiring educator, a motivating facilitator, a community leader, a kumu hula, a devoted daughter, dedicated sister, and loving parent and auntie. Ha'aha'a, or humility, ohana, family, and aloha, love, are values that were instilled in her at a very young age. Lealoha was born on the island of Oahu to a family of cultural historians and entertainers. Growing up in a family with deep roots in the Hawaiian culture meant she embraced her home and used that guidance to pave the journey she lives every day. When she was 8, Lealoha moved to Moku Okeawe, or the Big Island. As a connection to her grandmother, she chose to attend Kekula o Navahi o Kalani o Pu'u and immersed herself in the native Hawaiian language. As a recipient of the Bank of Hawaii Central Scholars and Princess Pauahi Foundation Scholars, she followed her dream of higher education in the Pacific Northwest. In 2009, Kumulealoha founded both the nonprofit organization Ohana Foundation and Halau Kalei Hali'a Okalokelani in Aloha, Oregon. Today, she advocates for the perpetuation and sustainability of the Hawaiian culture and the awareness of the rich Pacifica culture through her work with Halau Kalei Hali'a Okalokelani and Kalo Hawaiian Civic Club. She honors her grandmother as cultural and language educator in the Portland Public Schools, and as a kumuhula, she answered the call to spread the history of Hawaii through hula on the continent. Mahalo lealoha, e komo mai. Welcome to the panel tonight. Mahalo.
Aloha.
Aloha. Let's see. Next, Kumu Kanoelani Davis is a native Hawaiian woman of Molokai whose roots extend back for generations. She is a lifelong cultural practitioner and torchbearer for the survival of many Hawaiian art forms. It is her way of life, and in many instances, it does not separate her from being. Her dedication to culture advocacy for cultural awareness and love for design have been woven together and manifest in the patterns that adorn the wearable art of Pomahina designs. Kanoelani views Pomahina designs as an essence imbued with culture, tradition, and aloha while being infused in contemporary fashion. Kanoe is also a single mother of 4 daughters, and she once struggled through childhood trauma, and through her experiences, she started her newest business, Mana Bombs LLC. She also has 40 years of hula experience and 15 years of martial arts under her belt, both of which she started at a very young age. Both practices require a combination of discipline, and it has really shaped her perspective in dealing with life's adversities and helping to inspire others to see that they can persevere and attain their goals to be successful. So welcome, Kumu Kanoelani.
Hello, my kako. I couldn't find my mute button. Sorry about that.
All good. Oh, you gave me a chance to find my my last note here. Sorry, I was moving through different documents, and I think I misplaced Kumu Michelle's bio. Kalamai, everybody. So I might have to read her short one because, yeah, sorry. Okay, here we go. Kumu Michelle Manu is internationally known for her accomplishments as a 10th degree black belt, Alihi Kaua general, and Kumu Lua teacher of the indigenous Hawaiian cultural practice and martial, the Lua, Ka'ihivalu, and Manu lineages. Kumu Manu is currently the only high-ranking female teacher of this art and currently the only public representative of a Hawaiian woman warrior in over 200 years. She is presently the only woman to be given the designation of Knight Commander of the Royal Order of Kamehameha, Oahu chapter, for her continued work in protecting, promoting, and perpetuating the Hawaiian culture through Lua. Previously, she toured the Northwest as a professional Polynesian hula dancer and choreographer for 10 years. Today, she uses hula dance to teach Lua, as she believes it is essential for timing, balance, placement, and micro body movements during close quarters combat. She teaches this at UCLA and in her system, Nakua, the Warriors, and Pa'alua o Manu. She began working with Honolulu Community College in the Native Hawaiian program in 2002. Kumumano has also been a legal professional for 26 years. She earned her Juris Doctorate and business credentials from George Washington University, business credentials from Harvard Business School, and George Washington University. She also holds a master's degree in metaphysical science and is a 2023 candidate for a PhD in philosophy with an emphasis in personal transformation. So please allow me to welcome our last guest, Kumu Michelle Manu, to the show. Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha, welcome. Bear with us, guys. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but that is the ups and downs of technology. So, but we're gonna imua and push on and get started here. So, hula is, it is the heartbeat of the people of Hawaii, but I want to help our viewers really understand what that means to us and our lahui. So, Auntie Hoko, would you get us started? How and why is hula important to you?
Oh, hula is important to me because it comes through my family genealogy. So it is a way that we continue our cultural practice that has been given to us. My grandmother was a kumuhula, Aida Pakulani Long of Ka'aihui Kai'anui Long of Maui. She had 7 daughters and 8 sons. Of her 7 daughters, 3 became kumuhula. My Auntie May Lobenstein, my Auntie Kahili Cummings, and my mother, Leanna Woodside. In my generation, her grandchildren, there's myself and my sister, Ulalia Woodside. And in her great-grandchildren, it is my cousin, Melia Lobenstein Carter, and my son, Lono Padilla. So, hula always has been. It's important because hula, in my opinion, hula is the only cultural practice that continued from traditional times until today, unbroken. Other cultural practices were banned. Well, hula was banned too, but we had stubborn ancestors who refused to stop doing hula. So hula is the only cultural practice that has been maintained unbroken since traditional times. And so it's important because all of that ike, all of that knowledge, all of that has traveled in the mele and in the stories that accompany the mele come to us to this very day. So through hula, we have a focused attention to all of those things that are important intellectually, physically, emotionally, spiritually, that comes through hula. In my opinion, hula touches upon every aspect of Hawaiian culture more than any other single cultural practice. So without hula, we fail to remember all of the pieces that make us Hawaiian.
Ooh, mahalo. I love that. It's so in depth, and I cannot wait to hear everybody else's take on that too. Kumule aloha, how about you? How is hula important to you?
First of all, of course, Kumu have beautifully said. For me, hula is important to me because it is a connection to my ohana. It is not only connection to ohana, but connection to our people, right? To where we come from. Hula for me, especially living on the continent, is my way of remaining, grounded, right? Where is my kahua? And so that is why hula is important to me, and the importance of continuing that tradition. Like Kumu who said, hula it is unbroken. and we have to maintain that pilina of hula. And I come from my tutu was Miliana, with the Melanani Serenaders, and so for me, hula is was always that way of connecting with Mele and connecting with Ololo Hawaii, and that was my way of connecting with her. So that is why hula is important to me.
Mahalo. I definitely hear the comment threads about the ohana and perpetuating those connections. I love that. Ohana is really central to the Native Hawaiian culture. And it is like, and not just the bloodlines, right? Like the broader family too. So I absolutely love that. And the family that you bring into your halau or your school too. Let's see, Kumu Kanoi, your thoughts.
Mahalo. I don't know how I can elaborate on what has already been shared. I think we share the same, but not all. The only other thing I would probably add on for myself personally is, it keeps the relationship between the elements, our land, and actually it breaks this construct of time and space for us, because that no longer exists as a hula person. I'll preface, and I know you didn't mention it earlier, but I'll preface, I am kumula to kapa hula ohina kapola ila here on Molokai. And also within the Lua line, and I am so happy to meet Kumu Manu. My grandfather actually learned from Ka'ihewan. And so I'm one of two females that graduated under the Lua line here on Molokai, under the Molokai Academy of Arts by Sifu Olohe and Kahupono Francis Lealoha. And so, that's the through line, is this connection. And it keeps me connected no matter where I am in the world. And I remind my daughters of that all the time in my haumana, because we question that. So aside from the ohana, this blood, very, very tangible aspect of it, I do want to point out the very intangible and yet deep. And the fact that we have the ability to just dissipate time and space is a magic that cannot be existed, cannot even be fathomed, unless you have really understood the practice of hula. And that's what hula does and has provided for me, my family, as well as my haumana. And I pray one day they will see that in its greatness that hula provides. And sometimes it takes a lifetime, but that's why hula is important to me. So mahalo.
Oh, mahalo to that. Because I know we talked a little bit when I was on Molokai a couple of weeks ago about, the importance of hula. And then sometimes you have to go away to appreciate, and so maybe that has to happen for our keiki too. With that said, I want to hear Kumu Manu's thoughts, but also like incorporate, I know Kumu Lealoha and Kumu Manu, and even you too, Kanoi, like, you spent some time away from Hawaii, but you still, continue to practice hula. How is that for you too? Like, the connection, like the special, what is so special about hula, even outside of the continent, and what are your experiences with that made it special for you, Kumu Manu?
I actually agree, because I think it's more spiritual than anything. And there is no time or distance in the spirit. And I think that's how we get tethered back to our ancestors as well as the Aina, no matter where we're located. I used to always say, we're disjointed, or we're not home as much if we travel or we've relocated for a period of time or for a long period of time. And there are periods where we need to go home and get filled up and then come back and then give it back out to get readjusted, realigned, and fed ourselves so that we can uphold our kuleana. But hula has been extremely important for me. I always loved my hula. I've always been somewhat of a technician instead of a feely dancer, and I never knew why. And it was when I was accepted as a disciple in the late 90s with Solomon Kaivalu that I really started to see the parallels between the hula and the lua. And what we hear all the time, how the lua was hidden within the hula after the lua was banned, which we believe was about 2 to 3 years before the hula was banned and written into kingdom law, the ban. But it wasn't until I felt both energies, which is the same as just the expression of the practitioner. One is obviously to perpetuate, to connect. And the other one is on the other end of extreme dislocation, protect, and take one's opponent, de-escalate, or actually take them out, make. But it wasn't until I was asked to contribute to a paper in Hilo, Hilo, for 2 graduate students that wanted to know where some of the lua was hidden in the hula, that forced me to sit down and be in quiet time and commune and actually look at everything. And I found these tremendous parallels. And it's just developed since then. And I can't see a difference anymore. It's just the way in which I express it. And it helps tremendously in learning the lua, because like Auntie said, that so much of the other cultural practices have been hidden and burned and buried. And we have little parts that come back, and we try to incorporate them, but nothing has really stayed intact like our hula. So for me today, it's integral, especially with women who have not been given the chance to study lua very often or as frequently as the kane. We were forced to dance, whether we were home and it was hula or other types of dance, or on the continent learning tap jazz and all of the others. There's still an 8 count, and there's still a movement there that is actually, you can see the lua in it, and you can see our hula in it. So bringing those together today, when a woman has been subjected to maybe unhealthy kane or ku energy, they really don't like to feel it in their body. But yet we're made of both. We talk of ku and hina. Ku alua in itself, where's the hina in that? Where's the balance? And I have theories on that and why it has been the way it's been in the last 200 years, public facing anyway, as far as lua. But our lua is incomplete without the hula. And that is my personal belief.
Mahalo for that. I
Jump in for a sec.
Yeah.
Kung Manu, I agree with you 100%. I also, in my growing up with hula, had heard about the parallels between hula and lua, and never really had an opportunity to find out both until I was in my late 20s, when the body still could function the same way. And I had an opportunity to learn in Paku'ia Lua. And I immediately saw the parallel. As soon as you begin to learn your basics, you see it clearly. The parallels in hula and lua, and the thought processes of both, the disciplining in both, the spiritual connection in both. And for me, there was a point that I had to come to decide between lua and hula, because I was already a kumu hula, and I knew I couldn't give 200% to both. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to return to hula. But my sister still continues in lua, but I really agree with you, and I see Kanoi nodding her head, because she also has had training, that if you have training in both, you absolutely can see that they are related.
Right, it's open and obvious. It's like fluency of 2 different languages, and unless you know both, a little bit of both, it's right there. It's like, can you see it, right?
No, and I wanted to point that out too. So part of Lua and Hula, because I had to take both at the age of 2. Right? Both were family lineages, so I had no choice, like you said. So growing up in it was very hard, and I was when I say trained, we were training. We weren't practicing. We were training for something greater. But the spiritual side of the 2 are equal. For a long time in hula, I could watch people's feet, and I could identify where they came from, who their kumu hula was, and what island they were from. And now it's a little bit different because of innovation. Yeah, it's changed a lot. It's not that it's unidentifiable, but it's it's not as easily identifiable because we're constantly evolving. And I know we're going to get into this later, but when you have the lua and you have the hula, because it was when underground, we were also trained to observe. So this is where the observation came into play, and why observation kilo was so important. It's like we could train ourselves to see the hands, the feet, the movements, and then because not all halal had the lua hidden in it, only certain halal could have certain. So I was trained to pick up on what those were in all halal. So Mary Monarch was my most fun time because I just look at feet the whole time, and I'm going, oh, I know yes, I know who that is. I know where that came from. But only I could. It was hard for a very long time because I could only talk to myself. Nobody understood that side of me. But what you're saying is so important because, these are the things that we all had to do, or our kupuna had to do in order for us to see the message today.
Yeah.
So yeah, hula is important because we need to preserve, but hula is important because it was preserved for us today. And if we can pull all the secrets out, and we pull the hikuna na mea huna, then we see the whole picture. And I also know that like we're not all gonna get it, and I'm okay with that. Some days I fight like, how come you cannot see what I see? But it's fine, and I recognize that's not what the case is, and it's gonna have to be like that until that one person in the far future has it all. But definitely, lua and hula is hand in foot. We hear ka'ana, olohe is across the pu'u olohe is across where ka'ana is, and pu'u nana where the birth of hula took place, and this is where the olohe were born.
Yes.
Here on Molokai.
Yeah.
So the kuhina is very important. But I just wanted to reaffirm that for.
Mahalo.
It makes me excited because it's nice to hear other people talk about the things, rare moment.
Yes, I was gonna say I'm so glad that we're able to make this connection because I know it means so much to Kumumano. We had conversations when we were on Honolulu, and it's so easy to feel like you're an island as a wahine with lua because it's not seen as much. So I'm so glad we get to explore this topic more and talk about it more openly and relate it to things that people already understand with hula. But one of the things that we just briefly talked about is kuleana. And for those who are listening and who doesn't know what kuleana means, it's like the responsibility, your purpose, like what is the reason for why this is important. So let's ask maybe a potentially controversial question. Who or what is a kumuhula? I would say who. Who is a kumuhula? How does one earn this title? Because I've been living on the continent for a while, and there are a lot of self-proclaimed kumuhula, and I look at them and I'm like, no. So who's a kumuhula? How does one earn the title, and what kuleana comes with this role? And let's go to Kumu Lealoha because I know she has kind of bridged both sides of this, being like someone who comes from Hawaii but is now teaching on the continent. So let's hear from you, Kumu.
This question is so near and dear. So I can back up for a lot, and mahalo for kumuhula and all of that. I don't use the title kumuhula. I only use kumu. That is what I am, a kumu. I am a source. The reason being is because when our halal started, and my auntie who blessed our halal being here, and blessed my mom's kumu who allowed me to open up a halal here. Unfortunately, that my kumu passed away, and so to go through that process of being a kumuhula for me will not be, because it's hard for me to just, when your kumuhula is not there to do that, take you on that journey. So before I start crying, I'm not gonna go into that. Anyway, I just want to start with that. Yeah, that's one of my biggest things. For me, kumuhula is definitely earned. It is an earn. It is a gift, and it is a privilege. It is gifted to the person who earns that title. Even though my auntie blessed our halal and she's a renowned kumuhula, and she gave us this, our name, she blessed us with our name and all of that. Still to this day, because I didn't finish, my uniki went as far as olapa, and I didn't finish. I don't go with kumuhula, because for those who have gone through the uniki process and become kumuhula, It is not it's not easy. It's not a handshake. It's not a, hey, you got the job, sign here on this line, this dotted line. No, when you take on kumu hula, you don't just teach hula. Man, you the teacher, you the counselor, you the mom, you the dad, you the cousin, the grandma, the grandpa, the everything, right? And when I started our hala, I was 25. Who I am now today is very different from 25. You learn so much, but you have to. So, kumu hula, you have to have, and the other thing is that lineage, the connection to the source, and people may argue with, they might not, they may say other things, and if somebody tells you you're kumu hula, you get to be a kumu hula, whatever. But I feel like you have to have the source, and if you do not have that piko for your hula, for me, this is just for me, on the continent, there are a lot of people who throw around the word kumu hula, and they misuse it, and I feel like it's a problem. And so for me in Oregon, I battle those people. Because I have no shame, because it's that's cultural appropriation. That's to my culture, to my lineage, to my family, to my kupuna. And so when people call themselves a kumuhula, I want to know why, how, where, like, how especially when they perform and they olelo and they chant and they oli, and it sounds like a bunch of geese running around on a field. That's not okay. Sorry, I know everybody laughing because it's true. And I just, like, so up here, so many people call themselves kumuhula because somehow they went to Hawaii, fell in love with hula at a luau, and then they decided to become a kumu, because they're like, they have this concept that kumu hula is a teacher of hula. No, it's not. Kumu hula is a gift. It is a kuleana. It is something that you awamo, and it's passed down. It's generationally handed to you. So it's not you cannot just get, not downplaying the degrees, hele ki kula nui, heme nui ki kula nui, but it's not a degree. Just because you get the degree doesn't make you a kumula. So anyway, I could go on and on about this topic, so I'm gonna just, yeah.
Michelle, let's go to you.
That was really, really good. On that, I get really aggravated too, but my counterparts are kane, not wahine. So even worse for a wahine koa or kumu lua, that's a wahine to challenge, which I have. So last one was actually within my lineage, but he was a remote student of Olohe. So he declined, which of course gave me street cred. We all need that, right? Yeah, you just cannot. I know my Olohe Solomon, he decided to evolve it to where we did have ranks. That's why you see that outrageous rank of 10th degree. Everyone knows, especially Kumu, that there are no ranks in Lua. You ailolo and you reach a certain level, and then Kumu, I can't speak for any other lineages, but it happens around 5th degree black belt in the Kaivalu lineage. Before that, it's not even a possibility. With that comes what Kumu just said, all of the responsibility, the title, and correlating duties that comes with that title. So it's not just, I'm teaching you some techniques, I'm teaching you some conditioning. I get to promote you to different levels. It is, again, early, we talked about this. Someone said it's a lifelong journey, and that's what Lua is too. They're both very parallel. So a lot of fakes running out there. We can see it on all of martial arts, not just Lua. So yeah, and social media hasn't helped either. You just put a pretty picture up and profess something. And I went through a betrayal with one haumana who was trying to take her previous training in a Korean art and trying to say it's hidden in the hula. So she was dismissed from study. I mean, blasphemy, absolutely. And then went to another kumu and tried to get ranked. So there are those out there that are misusing the title of kumu. On top of that, last Thanksgiving, actually, it was a year ago Thanksgiving, there was the same idiot that decided he was going to file at the U.S. Patent Trademark Office for exclusive rights to kumulua and alohe. So if you saw me on social media, I took that. There's very rarely will I take my platform into the gutter, but it must go when I need help from our culture in calling out these no offense, the non-Hawaiians that want exclusive rights to our cultural terms, which they have no idea the depth in which these terms mean to us, mean to our kupuna, and mean to our future generations. Of course, thankfully, this guy, I was going to call him a gentleman, but this guy dismissed both applications for the service mark. So he will not own kumulua and he will not own alohe. So, to further what Kumu was just saying, there's a lot of these jokesters out there. We just, unfortunately, it's part of protecting, number one, promoting, number two, and perpetuating, number three. That is what we're charged with as Kumu. So it's probably similar in Hula as well.
Absolutely. Mahalo for being our koa. And putting those dudes in place when they need to be put there. Kumu Kanoi, I know you have wonderful opinions about this.
Wow. I'm going to keep it light. First, I want to acknowledge the word kuleana. We hear this as responsibility. What we don't hear is accountability. And so when we take on these titles, when we take on this kuleana to teach, to perpetuate, we are accountable for both the good and the bad. Mm-hmm. What goes out there. And I think we forget that. And, so it's easy to love hula and go teach hula and be all the hula things because we love it and it's healthy and it's a lifestyle and, whatever's law. But man, there is accountability and it is not fun. And it creates a lot of humility. And you either going to take it or you can walk away. And being trained in hula, that was my role. I was humbled a lot. And so let me go back into other parts of this too. When I was a child, I was asked in elementary, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a kumu hula. Oh, but that doesn't make you money. I don't care. That's what I want to be. And it wasn't because of money, because I actually teach for free. But, part of that is, I tell my students, we're hula practitioners first and foremost, period, bottom line. We're not entertainers. It's not wrong to entertain, but we're practitioners first because that comes with accountability and responsibility. Mm-hmm. And it helps also lighten that load in what we carry because we carry a lot. The other part too is I wanted to graduate with an ailolo. Like that was my dream. I could see it already. Like, I'm going to catch my pig and I'm going to, do all the things. And like I had planted my new Hewa like long time ago. Like I was ready for it. And it didn't happen. My kumu happened to be up at Pu'uhuluhulu. And I had to do protocol up there. I brought a bunch of my students from Molokai. We did protocol up at Pu'uhuluhulu. And then I was done with my protocol. That's when my kumu on that mountain had said, "You are kumula." And I would look at him like, now? Like, wait, where's the ceremony? That was the ceremony. That was it. And then I went, okay. So all these dreams and expectations, it's fine. And, it took a long time for me to accept that. It took a long time. And he introduced me to the Royal Order and to everybody who was to the witnesses, basically, on that mountain that day as Kumula. Davis. And I was like mind blown. It came out and I worked so hard because I had no expectations. I just did what I was supposed to do. And I think he just at that time just said, now's your time. And I worked hard. My kumu used to, I was the example for everybody. A lot of the times. I was his alakai and po'opua. And I never got a choice when I grew up to choose my halal. I was actually passed down from one halal to the next. And, people think you have one kumu hula for life. And that might be the case for some. But for me, I was passed. When I was younger, I had Auntie Loretta Reddy was my kumu hula. She's my hero. She will always be my hero. And she passed me off to Auntie Moana. And so then I danced with Auntie Moana. I learned the entertainment side of that, the Polynesian side of that, the hula, the Samoan, the everything.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful. And then after that, I moved to the continent, and Kumukoho'one actually found me, and he asked me to come dance with him. And after I danced with him, he quickly promoted me. I went bypassed the Olapa because I had a lot under my belt. And he's passed, and I miss him. He introduced me to 2 of his kumu that he had graduated in the Uniki, and he passed me on to one of that kumu. And I was taken under his wing. I didn't have a choice. There was no choice. And so I became the alaka'i. I became the po'opua. I moved home. Was not allowed to start a halau. And I only could have a pa, not a halau. And I was told, okay, you're going to have a pa in Molokai. You're going to continue practicing. You're going to continue teaching under my lineage. And I said, okay. And I just did it. No question, no doubt. I didn't ask. I didn't want to know. I just did because I knew I was supposed to. And I did for a very long time. And I didn't have my students didn't call me kumu. They called me po'opua. And so I taught under that guise. And then, interesting enough, prior to me going to do ceremony, taking my students up to Pu'uhuluhulu, and where my kumu was, Hawaii Lona came, which was the name Kapahula o Hina I Kapola Ila'i, and that's a whole other thing. But I didn't know. I didn't understand. I just said, okay. And then that moment happened up at Pu'uhuluhulu. And I came home because I wasn't ready, right? We want to be ready for something. We want to know we're going to get something so we can prepare for it. In this instance, it wasn't the case. So I was confused, And so I ended up coming home and talking to my papa. My papa is also my teacher, my sifu, my olohe. He is the person that has taught me everything that I know today, culturally. And I asked him, what do I do? Kumu made me kumu, and I wasn't ready for this. I don't know how to take it right now. I don't understand. And he looked at me and he goes, accept it. And that was the hardest thing, So I'm not going to lie. For a very long time, for maybe a few months, maybe even a year almost, it was hard for me to transition from po'o to kumu. I didn't know how. And so as time went by, and Papa was like, just looking at me, just going, accept it. And, he was teaching me a lesson, right? Let go of this expectation that you had to graduate and do all the things that you were supposed to do because that's how you dreamed about it. He goes, you earned your space. You proved your point that was seen. Accept it. And so that moment I accepted it. And since then it's been a journey, and ironically in that same year, as I reflected back, I did an ailolo actually. I ended up sitting down and with actually the kupuna and having that ailolo, but it wasn't connected directly. It was all this indirect, all these things that led up to that moment, which was so interesting when I look back. And the new Hewa still lives and is thriving and still feeds the kuahu. But as far as the kumuhula, the understanding of kuleana, responsibility, accountability, that's real. If they fail, I fail. And if I fail, my kumu fail. And I will never let them fail. Oh, no, because I know I will get putty in all the realms, and I'm not here for that. And as I tell my Hawaiian, I will, even when I'm gone, you still gonna get nuku, But, that little bit of fear is good. So it is what it is. But that's my mana'o, and that's what I can share around kuleana and even uniki. Some people accept it, some people don't. It doesn't matter. My kuleana, I'm gonna walk. I'm gonna keep walking. You challenge me. You want me to stand next to you? I stand next to you. But I'm pa'a. And she's moving, and that's my kuleana. So yeah, that's my understanding of what that responsibility is.
Mahalo. I love all of your stories. It's so wonderful, especially you bringing up, that like you have multiple kumu. It's not just one, and that sometimes the expectations of how you expect things in life to be, whether it's hula or everything else, like no, it's not really gonna come out like that. And I think probably everybody on this panel can probably say like, oh, like you had unexpected things happen to you, like, oh, that's how it works. Am I ready? Kind of thing. So, love hearing that. Auntie Hoku, as our kupuna on this panel, I would love to hear your perspective on this.
Well, I want to start a little bit with how hula comes to me and then how I see it moving past me. I came from a family of kumu hula. I started hula before I understood that I was doing hula. My mother had the pictures, so it must have happened. My first teacher was my grandmother. My second teacher was my auntie on Maui. And then I learned with my mother, but I had to mature in order to learn from my mother. I was a little bit hot-headed sometimes. So, she didn't really begin teaching me until I was older, till I matured. She was ready. I wasn't. But when I was on Oahu, I had the great fortune to learn from Hoakale Kamau. And she gave me my undying love for kahiko. In the 6 years that I was with her, we only did kahiko. We never did, we maybe did one awana because we had to do it for some show and then we promptly forgot it. So Hoakale gave me my undying love for kahiko. When I moved back to Maui, I went to, I knew I had to ask my mother who I should go dance hula for. That's not my decision. That's my mother's decision. So she sent me to several folks, but they all told me no because they felt they couldn't give me any more. And so when I finally told my mother, they all told me no. I was feeling very not worthy. She said, wait, I'll call you back. So then she calls me back and she says, I'm coming to Maui. Pick me up at the airport. Take me to your auntie's house. I said, you know better than to ask why. Yeah. So I went, okay, pick her up. And then she tells me, go away. So I go away. And then she called me again. She goes, come back. So I come back. And then she said, your auntie and I have decided it is time for you to be a kumu hula. And I told her, no, Mama, I don't want to be a kumu hula. I'm not pau dance. I want to still dance. I'm not pau dance. And she said, too bad. We have decided it is what's going to happen. So I want to tell Lealoha that in my opinion, there are 3 ways that you can be a kumu hula. 1, the formal ceremony. 2, a family lineage. However the family decides it happens, it happens. And 3, your big kumu tell you, no matter what. Your big kumu said, and that's all that is needed. Because what really is needed is that connection back. That direct connection back. From you to the kumu who gave you those privileges and those responsibilities. And to their kumu who gave them the same thing. And their kumu who gave them the same thing. To me, that responsibility back to a hula teacher before you is what is needed. That is the important thing, is that you realize that you are continuing the desires of the kumu before you. There doesn't have to be a formal, ceremony kind uniki. In the 60s, they used to have a certification paper. They have a big party, and then the big kumu goes, "You now are a kumu hula. Give you the paper." That's how it happened in the 60s. So if your auntie, your grandmother, your kumu says, "Oh, it's time for you," then that's all. Then that's all. You cannot negate their desire to see what they saw in you. They saw and they said, "You can." So that's all. That's all there is. And if anybody call you on a carpet, you tell them the same thing. I was given the rights and responsibility of being a kumu hula. Kiko pau. Kiko pau. It's those who make up in their mind they can be a kumu hula. That's the guys you gotta yank the carpet out, because there is no responsibility. That's what being a kumu is. You all said the same thing. There's kuleana. There's responsibility to this ike that you have been given. You have freely been given this ike. And they gave it to you freely. And they tell you, go and help others see this kuleana. And so, lealoha, I'm going to tell you, if you feel you are a kumu hula, I will recognize you as that. Because your ohana has said so. And that's enough. Your ohana has said so. That's enough. Yeah, so being a kumu hula, as all of you have said, it's not easy. From the outside, from the people who don't know, wow, being a kumu hula is just so cool. Cool. People listen to you. People do stuff for you. That's all they see. They don't see, the husband that comes to you and tells you, "Kumu, my wife doesn't come home from hula. What do I do? How do I help him?" They don't see the parent that comes, "Kumu, my baby not doing her homework, so I'm going to take her out of hula." And I told her, "Oh, no. Hula is where she needs to stay. That's where she gets the discipline. If you cannot give it to her, I'll give it to her." And I said that too. If you cannot give it to her, I'll give it to her. So, the kuleana of being a kumu hula might look glamorous on the outside. You watch Merry Monarch and you see all the glamorous kumu hula that go up on stage, and people look and say, "Oh, it must be glamorous." And then all these people love them. They clap for them. They hug them. They honey them. Yes, that is the least that they give back to all that they have been given. Yeah, all that they have been given. And if they don't realize they have been given their life, then they don't deserve to be in hula. They don't. Because hula, I believe, is where we continue to teach our people how to be Hawaiian. To me, halau does that. Teaches our people how to be Hawaiian. When the outside world tells you you don't have to be respectful, you don't have to be kind, you can say whatever you want to say, that don't fly in hula. That don't fly in hula. It is hula that teaches you to be Hawaiian. And if you're not Hawaiian and you in hula, this is good stuff for you, because you should know this as well. So the kuleana of a kumu hula, and I'm sure kumu manu in your lua, is to help people be good people. to help them be good people, to be kind and disciplined and helpful, and to be able to practice those things Hawaiian that does not have to be lived only in Hawaii.
Thank you.
It can be lived elsewhere. But you are right, Kumumanu, that you also have to come back to Hawaii. You have to come back to Hawaii and retouch, like you said, rejuice yourself up, right? Rejuice yourself up with all the beauty that is Hawaii, so you can carry it with you when you go back to where you live. So that is the kuleana of our cultural practices. Okay.
Hello, Auntie. Especially if our kumu, our alohe have gone, where this is the only place we can come. And just like Kumu was going to get emotional about her kumu, me too. It's not even been 3 years. So it's very difficult, and yes, this kuleana on the lua aspect, because it is about joint dislocation and engaging physically. I have to make sure that the ancient practice of the pohihihi, the metaphysical, is also part of lua, which is not what has been taught to me. My alohe was very crude. He took on the king's, edict of maximum kills and turned it all martial. So very imbalanced. But I, again, understand that because of the era in which he grew up. Anything that was wahine, anything that was loina wahine, anything feminine was considered weak and vulnerable and pansy. And I want all of it. We show this as kumu, that we're anything but that. We're formidable. And the divine feminine, the loina wahine, is vicious when you challenge her, when you threaten anything that we love or hold dear. And so in that, this being full contact, where we touch each other, I cannot have koa or haumana that don't have control over their emotions. They must learn the Hawaiian way, the Maoli way, if you will. I am not Maoli. My father is Kanaka. I'm not. I'm just Hawaiian. I was born on the mainland because my father left the Aina and married a Scandinavian. You know what I mean? So too light, too dark, disowned. They were part of that whole era of interracial marriages, So I think I understand why the coup has been so prevalent, but my students must understand that they have to have a grip on themselves. Otherwise, they will misuse what I'm teaching them, and they will harm themselves, their families, and everyone they come in contact with. Why? Why would I ever want to teach someone that's unstable and not connected spiritually to this cultural practice of our warriors? I always say, they didn't just exit the hale and do martial arts techniques all day. They were well-rounded and had great courage and control over themselves. And that is needed when you practice lua. You just, and same with hula. You cannot just go out there and do whatever the hell you wish to do. Otherwise, the kapuna will stop you. Forget about the physical, the seen. The unseen will become very seen when it needs to be. Thank you, Auntie.
Mahalo. Wow. I feel like I'm absorbing so much right now from all of you, and to see Auntie help, Kumule Aloha get her healing and her, confirmation, even though it's already there, right? But sometimes we need that reinforcement and those reminders. And that's another reason why it's important, again, back to those connections, whether it's our own individual lineages or connections to each other like this, so that we can help each other stay grounded and understand that importance. And, life takes people off the beaten path sometimes. And sometimes we got to bring them back. That's a big part of our culture too. Like, come back to the group, right? Ho'oponopono. Let's bring it back. So mahalo for that. One of the things that we talked about, and the word has come up a lot, and I think it's really, really important, is that accountability. So as a kumuhula, how do you ensure accountability to the piko when non-Kanaka haumana go astray, or even Kanaka haumana, right? Because both can go astray. So how do you guys handle that with your haumana or your students? Let's see. Let's go back to Kumule Aloha.
Yes, mahalo. Mahalo, kumuhoku. I didn't know I was gonna come today crying, kalamai. So mahalo. Sorry. I can't do myself. Um, accountability is, accountability, humility is the biggest part of the biggest part of halal, right? It's that our foundation, it's that awamo kuleana. When they go astray, which happens more often than people think, that's the part where we're not just a kumu, we gotta be the counselor and everything else, right? The parent, you parent so many people. You think I only have my three keiki, but no, I gotta parent all the other keikis too, and then you gotta parent adults too. But when they go astray, for me in halal, it's just a matter of It's a reminder. It's a reminder for me. Sometimes we gotta hoi back to like hoika people, right? For our halal, because of how I grew up, where I grew up, how I was raised, our halal we go back every year, sometimes twice a year back home, and so because hula can be taught anywhere around the world. You really can. Olala Hawaii can be spoken and taught anywhere around the world. But you gotta ho'i kapiko, right? And so for our students, um, I have one of my ladies, she's been with our halal for almost 10 years. And for some reason, on all the huka'is that we've done, she's never made it to Hawaii. She's also from the island. She's from different island. She's never made it to Hawaii of dancing hula with us. Her daughter is just, and with COVID kind of changed up all of our huka'is. But we finally made it. I took her to Maui with me. We actually went home for one of my good friends, Alan's halal with Kumukamaka Kukona's ho'ike and his 20th ho'ike. And she went home, and it wasn't necessarily to go back to Hawaii for her to like know what Hawaii. It was this hokai was to take her back to halal and to see hula in its home space, in its homeland where it thrives, and to see that. And it was just, her heart was just so full, because it was like, how do you of a person who's not Hawaiian, how is it okay for me to feel disconnected to Hawaii? Why do I have this pilina with hula that grounds me? And I don't know why. And then you go into this space, you hear the oli, you see the way that everybody interacts with each other, you see that family, you see making lays with each other, and just that pilina, right? And so that's what helps, is always taking them back home, especially living on the continent. Well, sometimes when they go astray and we just cannot, um, sometimes it's letting them go and them having to find their own path, especially on the continent, having them to, maybe they have to seek out a different halal or a different kumu, or because, and I always tell my homana, like, maybe I didn't only have one kumu, and so awale po kaiki ka halal ho'okahi. Yeah, awale po kaiki ka halal ho'okahi. So we always gotta remind them that. Um, Now, when it comes I've been in spaces here on the continent where that astray means being disrespectful and using hula or using Hawaiian culture as a means for um, income or monopolizing on our culture. Then that becomes something, a whole nother different conversation. And it's about educating. And what I found here on the continent is we get so upset. When I first moved here, I used to get so upset. I used to get so angry that people didn't. Why are they asking me? For me, I was like, this is a stupid question. Why are you asking me this? Of course, But then as I started to live here and get to know the system here, it's because they're uneducated. Truly, it's uneducated, and people always there's this line that drives me absolutely crazy. You don't know what you don't know. People, yeah, you don't know what you don't know. Okay, that's fine that you don't know what you don't know. What are you doing about it?
Yeah.
What is your resolution? You cannot just use that as your excuse that, oh, well, you don't know what you don't know. Okay, how many times are you going to use that sentence? You know what I mean? So if you don't know what you don't know, But look at the resources. Look at the resources we have today. So like in our community, just in our school district, I've been very privileged that they've welcomed Hawaiian culture and Hawaiian history, to be able for me to come into the schools and teach Hawaiian history. And then, of course, that relationship with our Native American people, our Native American families, like just being able to understand, like, I am an indigenous person, right? I am indigenous to Hawaii, and I now occupy an indigenous person's land. What does that look like? And so I gotta also educate myself. So living on the continent, there's been this battle of like, I so upset, but then I gotta also like, uplift. So when I navigate that with my homana, it's always having conversation. And I think the biggest part is being willing to educate. And then at the end on the other part of that, it's being humble enough to accept that education and accept the fact that, yeah, you don't know what you don't know, but you're willing to learn and you're gonna make the effort to. So I think, yeah. Hopefully, I may have gone all over the place with the answer.
No, I love it. You covered a bunch of aspects of this, and I think it's all needed and important to the answer to that question. Kumukanoi, I see you making movements over there, so I'm gonna go to you.
So much things are in my brain, but this is really great. I know we've had this conversation before, and I have a couple mana'o behind this because from having to live on the continent for a little while, hula never stopped. First thing I did was look for halal. First thing I did was look for the kanaka. First thing I did, like, there was no question. I was gonna find them, and if I wasn't gonna find them, I was gonna make sure that my kids was them. And I was a young mom back then, and my babies were little, but we grew, and we made do. And if that's one thing I learned, it's we make do with what we have, right? And we can make, that's the magic of being a practitioner, is we can make something out of nothing. That's our magic, because we know it so well. But on the other hand, as far as like, the appropriation and then also teaching, I do have students who are non-Hawaiian that do come, and I don't turn them away, because there are opportunities. There's advocacy and there's support and kako, and we need that.
We do.
Allyship is important. It's also what I recognized is, many times it's those ones who have no koko who want to learn the most and who are willing. And so I go, okay. But in the meantime, I have a responsibility to look for the one with the koko who can carry this on. So I have one haumana who is my ho'opa'a. And he's in training right now. And he doesn't have koko. And I have to remind him constantly. Like, yeah, okay, you get all this ike. You're diving deeper than many other students will ever dive. You're seeing layers and layers and layers. And I'm showing you secrets and magic that nobody will ever experience. Only a few will. But even if you uniki, the Hawaiian is still responsible. So don't think that you're the only one. Even if there's another one that comes before you or after you, the Kanaka is responsible. And I go tell you why they're responsible. Because when things go down under our lineage, they're not looking at you. They're looking at the Kanaka.
100.
So he understands that very well. But I'm very clear, because one of the biggest things we can offer as a gift is communication. Because you can either continue or you don't. Just make up your mind. You know what I mean? Don't waste my time. I don't want to waste your time either. But he holds a kuleana as well. But at the end of the day, when it becomes a decision needs to be made, it has to fall on the kanaka. And you could be brother and sister, and maybe you folks graduate together, uniki together in the future. But the one with the koko still has, and it doesn't make them higher. What it makes them more is accountable, like I said. So, and that's important. We can hold all the secrets. We can have all the knowledge and all the ike. But at the end of the day, the kanaka, the maoli, the kanaka maoli is responsible. And so I'm very, very clear about that. And I raised a lot of my hauman. I have a few, and I always say, my kumu told me the same thing. You're gonna have to live life, divorce, have plenty kids, get married again, question all your whole entire world, then come back to hula because you figured out some things in life, and you can come back, and then we're gonna go. And that's the hard part when you have keiki who start with you at the beginning, then they gotta go college, and they gotta go away. And then they got to go get married, and they got to have kids. And then you're waiting for them. And then they come back. And then you go, oh, thank goodness you came back. What you and remember? Okay, let's start from there. And you go, okay, because that you planted the seed. It doesn't mean it's done. Like the olena, it goes dormant. No, olena is a very powerful la'au, even for us as hula people, la'au people. And so I look at my haumana as olena sometimes. Sometimes they go dormant. But when that pua comes up, it's ready and ripe, and we are here. And talk about inflammation. All that swollen pressure down already. So it's nice when they come back. But I do have to preface to my haumana who are non-Hawaiian, who have surpassed many Hawaiians, is you're gonna get this because you earned this. You earned this. You earned this space. But at the end of the day, it is the kanaka who is responsible. And you have to understand what that means to you. And if something that you can handle emotionally, mentally, even spiritually, you're perfect. You're in good shape. Because what I don't want to do is create separation. I need to create support. We need to create allyship. And so many kumu have when hala with nobody to leave a legacy to. Mm-hmm. Then what? Right? Then what? I think about that as a parent. I think about that as a kumu. It's nothing's different. It's all the same for me. And so, what do we do? Even with my children who may not have made it to those points in the hula realm, they still have bits and pieces. I think as kumu, we're pretty smart in knowing how we disseminate our information. We know what we're doing. We know who can hold what, kuleana. Until we find the one that can hold it all. But until then, we have to kind of like what you can handle. And then if I hala tomorrow, y'all got to get together. But I don't foresee that. I plan on lasting for as long as possible and giving it to somebody, all of it. Because it's itching to come out. It's like dying to come out. But so that's where I feel. And I'm not gonna lie, I've traveled the world, got to talk in front of many halau. I look at their feet and I go, who is your kumu? Oh, they drop all the names in the world. Ja, this kumu, and this my kumu, and this my kumu. Your kumu, seeing that, they would not even tell me that you belong to them. Your feet, let me see all your koholos, let me see all your halas, let me see all your uehes. No. Oh, hema, like. And I looking at the kumu, and then I stop them. And I go, why you guys all dancing hula? I make them all go one by one. Oh, because it's healing. Oh, it's spiritual. Oh, I love it. All right, great. What else? But that's usually all the answers I get. And I go out and I nuku. And then I got to be like, you're the reason why I got to go untangle all this mess. The lay is all the kind that is. And I gotta go keep untangling, and I go, they don't invite me back, but that's okay. It's said I did my job. But the idea of us having to untangle that is very, very hard, and you cannot ignore it, because what happens is that continues to get tangled. The best things that we could do in this generation, in this time, and during this breath, is as much work as we can to untangle. The next generation going to have their stuff to untangle too, but we have to simultaneously untangle while strengthening the aho. And so as we strengthen the aho, we're untangling all these knots, and that's what the kumu has to do, and it's the kuleana, and that's not easy. But you also don't want to make knots along the way, too. So yeah, it's very hard. It's a very difficult conversation. That's my mana'o. That's how I do things. And I'm still a young kumula. Still, I'm in my mid 40s. So I still get plenty time. I have plenty time. But I'm not gonna waste the time. By far, not wasting that time. So I get plenty lessons to learn and plenty things to see and plenty things to experience. I'll have my nuku come after me as I nuku other people, but we're here for it, you know. That's what we signed up for. So yeah, as far as the appropriation, yeah, and being on other people's soil, you know, even in Hawaii, I feel the same way. Maybe I'm Molokai, but Maui, I'm not gonna do what I do. Or Ahu, I'm not gonna do what I do. I humble myself, I listen, stay silent. And you learn so much more by just observing. And so, but when I hear on my island, you know, I take responsibility. So yeah, that's my mana also.
Mahalo. Michelle.
Well, I always say, if you look like shit, don't tell anyone I'm your kumu. that's one thing I say. Just put it right out there. I think, you know, I would love to be able to own, and I do. I own my space in trying to teach specifically wahine, the mahu, as well as the keiki, because these three demographics have had less access to lua. In that, there are more and more opportunities to come home. I'm home now. And that means different islands, not just one island. And there is one very prevalent, very well-known lineage of lua here. They're credited for the resurgence of lua starting in the 60s and into the 70s. But at the same time that was happening, there were also 3 Kanaka men, 2 in particular, that went to the continent and started to teach non-Hawaiians. We don't speak about them very much, but one of them was my teacher. There was one interview that someone asked me, you know, well, how do you think that your training would have gone if you would have grown up full-time back home? And I sat in that for just a split second, and it hit me. Had I not been moved to the continent, I would have never have had the opportunity to even see lua, let alone train in it, and to get to this place to where I can bring it back to those that haven't been learning, haven't had the opportunity. I don't know, and I'm not going to say that's, you know, they've purposely kept it from you know, the wahine, the mahu, and the keiki. I think it was mostly coup driven, like, because I explained earlier. But now it's time. We may have wanted to keep lua, since it's banned, secretive, right? But then you look at lua and explanations online, and there's all this folklore about learning how to open portals and learn how to make fireballs. That's not what we do. It's basic physics. I mean, the body can only be broken in so many ways. It can only be healed in so many ways. It can only move in so many ways. My job, and I never want to overstep. And if I am being invited, it is protocol in Maoli times that if you are invited and you decline, it's disrespectful. So I come home. I come home every other month. I fly back and forth, and I teach. I get the honor of sharing, which lightens the kuleana a bit, sharing what has been fed to me. And that's helpful. And there are countless stories of how lua, in a really small one-time workshop, has helped wahine in particular get out of situations. So I try to be very respectful, but walking into the lua community sometimes can be turbulent. I'm not here to challenge anyone. I'm here to teach those that haven't been able to learn. And when the ban happened, it didn't just go underground and was kept secret from outsiders. It's also been kept secret from our own people. And this is where I'd like to change things. I see BJJ, FMA, Kaju Kembo, all these different arts that are so pervasive here on our Aina. And this is what our keiki are learning, and it's turned into sport. But where is our lua? Where is our only native cultural practice of our warriors? And that is my goal, is to hopefully my life, like Kumu just said, you know, she's got plenty of time. Unfortunately, I feel opposite, and publicly will say that I don't know how much time I have. And so I feel this sense of urgency
to share as much as I can and put things no longer just in verbal transmission, but in writing. And I actually trust no one. I trust no one for a good reason. And I will probably leave portions of the ike to different people so that the ano of the information will carry on, and there won't be one big shot to come in and take over. And that's just because this is Lua. It's a little bit different than other cultural practices. So mahalo for letting me share.
Awesome. I love hearing that perspective. Auntie Hoku.
Well, when I want to go back to the title of this, Hewa, should hula and other cultural practices be taught to or by non-natives? Okay, when I first got the title, I was a little taken back. Because the word Hewa, to me, I equate with evil. Hewa, it's more than Maika Iole. It's big. It's big when you Hewa. It's almost unfixable. Yeah. So when I saw, almost I said no, just because had that word. Almost I said no, but then I went, no, I want to say that I didn't like the word. So I'm trying. So I could say I didn't like that word. Okay. So the other half of it though is I think what we're touching upon now. And when I first thought about the title, I also thought that I cannot negate the behavior of those kuhula that came before me. And those kuhula that came before me taught everyone. They taught everyone and anyone. And I am really proud to say that hula accepts everyone. People who are not like, young, old, you cannot stand up, never mind. You can still sit and dance hula, all ages, all genders, all physical abilities. Hula says, yes, you can come. So in that instance, yes, hula can be learned by anyone. But I will be honest with you, when it comes to ceremony, there are only Hawaiians that come with me to certain ceremonies. Certain ceremonies are kind of noa, so it's okay. But there are certain ceremonies that only can have kanaka. And because I think, as we all are completely aware of, they bring their genealogy with them when they come. So they bring all of those people that have influence where they are at that particular time and place. And to me, that is good. That is important. So the non-native, the non-Hawaiian, I don't invite everywhere, but I do teach. I do teach all ages. Well, okay, back up. I never used to teach children before. I had a hard time. But now I teach children. I think I matured, so now I can teach children. But, it is, hula, I say, is for everyone. However, I am with the others of you that there are only certain kinds of information and practices that should be given to kanaka. It is not open to all. Certain ike behaviors, activities should be for kanaka for the very same reason I said that I take them to ceremonies, because they bring their kupuna with them. And that is an important part of the learning and the participating, is they bring their kupuna with them. So I have uniki, formally 6. All of them are kanaka. All of them took hula from me at some time or other. Only 6. And I don't anticipate uniki any others. But it was a conscious decision that they be only Kanaka. And so because there are certain ceremonies, rituals, behaviors, ike, that should only reside with the Kanaka. Any other kind of learning, I often share. I teach non-Hawaiians. I help one halau in Japan, and I help one halau in LA. And that's the only places outside of Hawaii that I have gone. And, of course, the Japan one, they're all Japanese, so and they're not Kanaka. And in LA, some of them are. Yeah, just like all the rest who have moved to places, many of them are. So can non-Hawaiians learn? Yes. Can the practices be taught to them? Yes. Can they be kumu? That is not my decision. I believe it is the kumu that is giving them those rights and responsibilities. They're responsible for that. Personally, I wouldn't, but I will call them the big kumu. They're responsible for them. And if they are okay, well, then they have to be okay with everything else that follows. Yeah. But I don't. But I won't say others cannot. I believe, though, just like Kanoilani said, there are levels of knowing and levels of understanding and levels of expectations that are given to your students. But the Kanaka has all of it. They must take on all of it. And so those kumu that I did uniki, I'm very proud of them. So I can say their names because I'm very proud of them. One is Kumu Hula Luana Kava'a, who is here on Maui. The other are sisters Napua Greg and Kahulu Malua Pearson. And then the last 3 were my ohana, my sister Ulalia Woodside, my son Lono Padilla, and my hanai son Keano Kaupu. So, I am very proud of them because they carry what was given to them forward. Can they be innovative? Yes, I let them do that, but they better check with me first. I always tell them, you got to check with me first so you don't go off the deep end. You don't go over the cliff because you're doing something cuckoo. So you have to check with me first. But yes, innovation is acceptable for me as long, and this is my gauge, as long as in 100 years from now, it looks like hula. Then I'm good, because 100 years ago, it looked like hula. Today, we still look like hula. I want 100 years from now that we still look like hula. Ha'ina ia maya na kapuana ea.
Mahalo nui, Auntie. I just wanted, I'm glad that you said that you didn't like the word. And I kalamai, if it created offense, that was not my intent. But I did intentionally, I was a little on the fence about do I want to use this word? But there was reasons why I use the word, because I see that word thrown around on social media, on the internet, right? And I wanted to make sure that we cover what is Hewa, what does it mean, right? And not that it's just oh, it's just wrong. No, it's really, really, really bad, right? And so kind of uncovering the layers too about how, it is sacred to us. It's not just a performance. It's not just, oh, look how pretty, how we talked about. There are so many things, so many aspects, all the kauna of everything that we do, right? And so mahalo for saying yes. I'm so glad that you did, because I was really okay, this is Kumu Hokulani. She's one kupuna. I don't want to disrespect her, but by the same token, like I really want her mana'o, so I hope she can say yes. So I'm so honored and blessed that you did, and looked past my word. Let's see. Okay, so we're coming close to the end of the hour, and of course, I think we only got to like 3 or 4 of my like million questions. So, let's see. Maybe we can end this portion because I think we are going to need a part 2. But maybe a quicker question, maybe not, but it's okay if it's not. What is your proudest moment as a kumu? Like of all along your journey so far, what has been your proudest moment from now? Kumu Michelle, we start with you.
Of course, you would start with me. What the heck wrong with you, Moana? I actually don't have one yet. I just try to earn my rank and my stature as a kumu. Every time I communicate with someone, every time I represent all of us and our foremothers and forefathers and Lua and us as a culture as a whole, that's if I can keep control over myself at all times and represent us well, because all of you here know that if you work anywhere in the public, if we're so courageous enough to take a stand and to represent our culture, there will always be the equal and opposite force to try to take you down. And we don't have the luxury of having a moment. We don't have the luxury of being able to tell someone off and it not be absolutely blown out of proportion. So I think I don't have and all those accolades, I think it's going to be when my life is over and to see how my haumana carry on without me, or the impact when I can destigmify the female warrior in our culture, when femininity is no longer a joke or perceived as less than inferior, then that's when I'll be very proud to fulfill my kuleana. And I know, I'm sorry, it's much bigger than just Lua. It's because I think the very inherent value of us as wahine has been so grossly diminished that is really, Lua may be my modality, but your method may be hula. Someone may be weaving, it may be fish, it may be some other cultural practice. Nonetheless, we are in this together to prove that we have something not even to prove. I'm starting to realize when I'm proud is not to force anything anymore, to just allow things to develop and to maneuver elegantly and powerfully in what develops. And whether that's in Lua, hula, or any other cultural practice, at all times, I know that I represent all of us. And I think if I can do that throughout the remainder of my lifetime here in physical form, then that's what I would be proud of. Woo, I hate you so much for asking that damn question. Woo! Okay, thank you. Who knew?
I love you too. Kumu Kanoilani.
Yeah, this is definitely really great questions because we go on with our lives with this kuleana that we forget to think of ourselves in those aha moments. Yeah. I've had a couple, and they also came with a lot of depression in this journey. The first one was probably, I tell this story, and I've gone through it. I'm good now, but having on Molokai, I've actually had a kahu, bishops, priests, the religious community pull me in one room. And they told me that what I was doing was invoking the devil because I was a practitioner, hula and lua, and because I could chant and because I could do the, hula pahu and kahiko and all this other stuff. And I didn't budge. And of all of those people that put me in the room, and I was young. Gosh, I was much younger, much weaker and scared. And oh boy, that gave me a good lesson in life by standing firm that kupa'a was real. Because I had solid kumu. And I had solid kupuna. You know, and that, you know, I went into depression for a couple of years because I questioned all that was taught to me, all that I knew. Was it real? Was it not real? Was it pono? Was it not pono? Is it invoking the devil? Is it not invoking, you know, like all these things? Like when I was taught, I wasn't taught these boundaries of like Western boundaries. I was just taught my life. And so I think that was a big aha moment for me. And 2 years, I was in depression, ridiculed, judged, made to feel less valued. But for some reason, hula was my foundation. So it didn't make me move. I did question it. I did. Even with my lua. As a wahine, oh, I have Olohe tell me that I don't know. And see, we were only trained with one weapon. We were only trained with one weapon. We had to master that one weapon. But it was also used for healing. So we had the kuhina side. Anyways, but as a female, young female, because I look young. Of course, I was all the things. Anyways, okay. So we fast forward and I questioned my papa because I was like, Papa, the Olohe said that our weapon they never heard of. They said our weapon is fake. Kumu, they telling me what I'm doing is wrong. And you know what all of them said? Never mind what they think. You don't trust me. Okay, yeah, I trust you. Then you keep doing. You not worry about that. And you know what? The one gift my grandfather told me as a practitioner, Moana Nui. And he was not lying. And Moana Nui was what got me through. And so I pushed through. I stood strong. And eventually it was funny enough, those same people who was calling me the devil worshiper were the same ones asking me to bless their homes and their keiki and all the things. And I went, oh, okay, I get choice now. You know, so I tell that to my haumana is that you gotta trust me. I gotta trust you. And this is your security. Because I trust them. And as long as you do that, we are okay. And so, you know, those were the things. You know, people gonna doubt and they're gonna tell you, no, you're wrong. But when they tell me I wrong and I say, okay, you right, I told 100,000 people behind me they was wrong. And oh, I don't like their lickings. The people who are living and walking are nothing compared to the lickings that I get from them. That's one thing I definitely learned. And I will stand strong. And I will hope to have that for 100 years down the road for those who stay within our lineage. I got your back. Here and there. And forever and ever. And once we become a kumu, we recognize that we have that kuleana even when we're not here. And we have to stay strong. And so that was probably my biggest aha moment. And that moment where I just went, oh, okay. My kumu and my kupuna, my papa, they was right. I'm not switching. Go ahead. Challenge me. I'm not afraid. Not afraid at all. But I won't come with grace. I may even come humbly and quiet. And I'm okay with that. So I have nothing to prove. The only thing I have is to continue to malama this ike and push it forward. And that's really my goal. And I don't care to fight. I don't care to argue. I don't even care to prove anything. And that's one thing I learned. It's just refine your mastery. Be what you say you're teaching. And trust in your kupuna. And they'll never steer you wrong. And that is the best blessing, the biggest gift. And I can't explain that or teach that to anybody. They have to learn that themselves. And so ho'omanawa nui. My papa told me 3 things. Yeah, ho'omanawa nui. Ha'amana, to breathe deeply. And na'au, don't question, just do. That was the biggest lesson. And probably the most important. And I will forever share his philosophies because that's the one thing that got me through everything. So, you know, so that's kind of what I would like to leave in closing as far as an aha moment. is trust your kupuna, trust the teachings, trust your kumu. They're gonna make you do things that you don't like do. And you may not understand it. Just listen, just do it. Because one thing we're not gonna do is leave you alone. We're always gonna be right next to you. When you fall, yeah, we're gonna tell you get up on your own. If you cannot get up, we will help you. But that's your kuleana. We just gotta see you get up. And once we see you get up, then we know you can surpass everything and anything. That's the goal, is to see how pa'a you are in the things that you do and how you move in this world. Because when you pa'a in hula, you pa'a in yourself. And when you pa'a in yourself, nothing can move you. And that's the mental part of it, the psychological part of it. That's the na'au part of it, the wailua, and that's the physical part. Yeah, you aiha'a for one reason, to be pa'a. Yeah, and you move to be flexible. And Kumu Janka Imikawa said it the best, right? You dance with fire and you move like water. And that's what I definitely believe in. And I look at that in the way we think, in the way we heal, in the way we connect, and just in everything in life, because that's why hula is our lives. It doesn't separate us. So, yeah, mahalo.
Mahalo, Tita. That was beautiful. Kumule aloha.
I don't know what else I could say after being pa'a, definitely. But just to go, what is my I cannot pinpoint one greatest moment. Maybe I would look to, for me the treasures is always in my haumana. The greatest pride of what we do comes from that, from seeing them, because then I see all of my kupuna and all of those who have laid the path for us in them. And so for me, living on the continent, and as well as many of when our keiki are growing up here, that sense of identity is such a challenge. It takes a toll on their mental health. It takes a toll on them just wanting to be. And I think something that's so beautiful about halau is, when the initial start of halau, when talking to Auntie, my whole goal was I wanted halau to be like home, because the halaus I was seeing up here wasn't halau. And I wanted halau to be like home, where I always wanted to be, who I was always with, getting to learn from. These are the people we're with, these are the people we hang out with. Even if in school all our hoa are from different halau, for some reason there's something that is pilina, and that was always halau and hula for us. And that was always that was my focus, was to create a pu'uhonua for our kanaka here, to create a place for them to know who they are. And so, for me, my babies who started with our halau, who were my babies, are now graduating from high school, making their way to college. It's a decade later, and my babies, who this is our halau's legacy, are growing up. And I think for me, the proudest moment is being able to see them share hula. And when I have my hoa papa or my hoa kumu come, or we go home, and they say, I wouldn't even know that they live on the continent. Their oli and their olelo is so mai Hawaiʻi mai, And so that's for me, seeing that, because that's not me, that's the kupuna. That's what my tutu taught, right? Like, what are we passing on? What are we leaving here? Are we seeing? And we get to see the fruits of it. So I think seeing that. And the other great thing is, so many people told me, why are you teaching Hawaiian language up there? You need to come home. Come back home. We need teachers at home. I know we need teachers at home. But there's so many Kanaka living up here too. And Olelo Hawaii is not here. And we need to make it, I want it normalized. I'm like, how come you can go everywhere else and learn all these other languages? You can't learn Hawaiian. And I grew up with Hawaiian being surrounded. I didn't know what it was to be without Hawaiian people. Everywhere I went, everything I did, Olala Hawaii, Hula, it was Hawaiian. And so up here it's a culture shock. And so for our kids in Halal, they're pa'a. They're so pa'a. They know who they are. I get to see them in high school and just be so confident in the direction that they're going because they have that lavakua, they have that support and that kahua, and that comes from Halal. But I think the greatest one is one of my haumana. She started with Olala Hawaii, born here, raised here, and has not gone to school in Hawaii, and she can speak Olala Hawaii. And she can understand. She was privileged enough to go and be a part of the Hawaii Law program at Windward Community College, and just to see that, and I think that is my pride and joy is the hamana, is my students, that is the pride, and I think I am very privileged to be a witness to their greatness, and that the fact that they get to carry on. Just and I've heard Kumuhoku say this before, but ever since I heard her say it, and so many of her hamana, I also know Keanu. I grew up Big Island. I knew him, Uncle Rob, when Rob, but and so but we really are just a vessel, and our hamana are the next to carry it on, and kumu, and so that is my hamana. The hamana is the greatest joy, to be in their presence and to see their love for hula. It doesn't come when they start hula. It comes in a moment, in a song, standing on the beach, standing on the Mauna. It comes in a moment when all of a sudden they fall in love with hula. And that is when my heart, every day, everything just comes to play. So yeah, that is what I can share.
Mahalo nui. Kumuhoku, bringing us home.
Well, when I saw that question on your list, I thought about that, and I thought, and I thought, and I thought, and I thought. And I have to say, I do not have one proudest moment. I have many proudest moments. The first time the baby goes through the whole hula without mistake at Ho'ike, that's a proud moment. The time that you see a student that has been with you, like you, Lealoha, and you sit at their graduation at high school and know that you have helped that being come to be. That's a proud moment. Of course, watch my sons be successful on the Merry Monarch stage. That's a proud moment. To be able to have my children love hula as much as I love hula is a proud moment. So I have many, and because of that, I think this was just me. If I choose one, I do not honor the rest that I am proud of. Yeah, I am proud of them all. Sometimes I like just give them a crack, but I am also very proud of the first time they dance on stage and they have all their costumes in line. They get all their lays correctly. They brought everything ironed and they don't make mistake. That's a huge proud. So I take the little things as well as the big things to be proud of. And I am just proud of loving hula. Mahalo.
Kalamai, I'm not sure what just happened. Hold on. Sorry. Okay, Dale, sorry. Sorry. Oh, I didn't mean to end it on a kaboom. Mahalo, Kumuhoku, for that perspective. I think that is true, that you cannot just choose one, right? Again, back to the connective tissue and how all of the pieces just make the wonderful, beautiful picture that is our culture and is our lahui, and acknowledging the accomplishments that come along the way. And I think, like, even more broadly, like celebrating the small wins, all of them. Like, they might not feel big in the moment, and you may not even know like the importance of that moment until later. But like, that's what keeps you going, right? Like, because I'm sure even as kumu and as haumana, like, there's times when you want to give up. Like, oh, I don't know about this. Like, do I really want to do this? Yeah.
Almost once a year, I like and I've been teaching for 47 years. So that's a lot of times I wanted to give up.
Yes. And I think that's an important message, especially for our keiki today, because it's such a like instantaneous culture that we're living in right now, right? Like, it's that kind of value of the long work, like the longer vision. And it's not just like the hurry up right now, give me it right now. I think that's another beautiful thing that hula provides to us, is that reminder that it's not just you in that moment, it's not just that moment, it's everything that came before and everything that's still gonna come. And just being proud of that moment too, like celebrating the present. Like, we always talk about the past, we talk about the future, but sometimes we don't celebrate that present enough. So mahalo for all of you being present here today on this panel. I know we went longer than what we committed to, and e kalamai, sorry, but I couldn't stop this conversation. And so thank you so much for being with us. For me, like, when I grew up, I danced hula when I was little, but now I know it's more like the Polynesian style, right? Like the Hawaiian awana and Tahitian and Maori, all those different styles. And I didn't really dance hula a little bit more seriously until I came to the continent, and I had multiple kumu hula here. And it's different, like the halau here are different. So like, I've moved around and I've taken a very long break. I really want to get back to it, but I don't know if there's the right kumu here in the Washington, D.C. area for like the level of seriousness that I want, like really the connection back to the piko. So I'm hoping that somewhere in my future, there's a kumu that can like help me come back to in alignment more with what I would envision for myself. But in the meantime, I'm so grateful to hear all of your stories, because you can be connected, and I'm really learning so much here too from all of you. And it helps me to feel grounded and connected, even though I am not directly, being a practitioner, but more helping to elevate the voices of our community who are preserving it, promoting it, perpetuating it, and ensuring we're all doing that in a very pono way. So mahalo nui again to all of our listeners who are watching this wonderful episode. I just want you to know how much of a blessing this episode is, this conversation. And I hope you guys enjoy it. Please share and, share it around. The more that people can help, understand our culture, I think, especially for those who maybe cannot even come to Hawaii for financial reasons, whatever that is. But, my thing is, you don't have to come to Hawaii to experience Hawaii. If you are in the presence of a Hawaiian, you are in Hawaii. We bring it with us, right? Like, so thank you all for being a part of it. And kuleana and accountability is definitely two heavy takeaways that we have from this. And so I'm excited. Hopefully we can continue this conversation into a part 2. And we'll bring that to you guys at another moment. So with that said, we'll end today. Please join us next week for our next conversation, which will be representing Koko on the continent, and that will be May 18th. And we look forward to having you all back again. In the meantime, take care, everybody. Malama pono, ahui ho.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, was a freedom then, when they annexed Hawaii and called it cedar lands, without any type of payment and no signing off. Called themselves a republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand, yeah.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Hula Be as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will. We will.
So if we put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course. Cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom. Clap back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Hula Be as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will. We will.